Hi everyone. It's another podcast episode. I hope you guys had a good week. I had a very unexpected, crazy week. So I have some exciting high-low buffaloes. My high would be I just had literally the best pho that I've ever had, and it was in New York, which is crazy. It was so good, and I can't tell if it's because I haven't had it in a while and I kind of forgot what it tasted like in LA, but it was so good today. I went to, I think it's called Happy Saigon in East Village, and it was only $13, which is the best. My low for this week, on St. Patrick's Day, I went out with my friends, and this white old man, he comes up to us and he's like, yes or no? And we're like, what the hell? And he's like, yes or no? It's a democracy. Should I buy you guys drinks? Do you guys want drinks or not? He ends up going through each of us and he has us say yes or no. And I said yes, because you know what? Maybe this is a good story. And I just want to see where it leads to. We ended up getting drinks from this white old dude. He showed us his passport. He stayed really long at our table. And for my buffalo, so Mikey and I, we go to the gym every morning, and around 7 o'clock when we finish our gym session, we always pass by this doorman who is this white old dude. Again, and let me just say, these white men, very problematic. He always greets us, and because we're regulars, he knows who we are, blah blah blah. And this one time we passed by him and he was like, I guess I have to buy both of you drinks if I take both of you guys out. We were like, what? What are you saying? It was so awkward, and we just made an awkward laugh. And then another day in the same week, we walked by him again, and he was having a very normal conversation with us, asking us about what we do for work. And he also thought that we were underaged. He thought that we were under 18, because the first time when he talked about buying us drinks, he was like, I have to wait until you guys are 18 to be able to buy you guys drinks or something like that. And then he asked again if we're in school or if we have a job. He was like, oh my God, so out of pocket. He looked at us and he bent down to our level, which I fucking hate. Don't do that. I know, I'm sure you don't need to bend down to my level. But anyways, he bent down to our level with super wide eyes, goes, Asian girls rule. Don't forget it. And Mikey and I just start awkwardly laughing, and we're okay, we're gonna go now. And it was just he did not have to add that to the end of our normal conversation. So yeah, that was our buffalo. Before I get into this podcast, all of you who listen to my episodes or whatever, a lot of you guys are do a podcast about XYZ. And when it comes down to analytics and seeing how many people watch certain episodes versus the others, you guys eat the dating shit up. And it's so funny, because a lot of you guys are I want you to do more of this type of talk and this type of talk. But I see it with the dating episodes. It's insane how many people listen. Thanks for listening anyways. Okay, moving on. So I went on 4 dates total in the past week, which I highly don't recommend. It is one of the worst decisions I've ever made. Okay, that's been an exaggeration, but it's just ridiculously expensive. I've spent $180, I think, total on all the dates, because I pretty much split with everyone except one of them. And also, it was so draining. Well, at least for me, I'm not good at speaking to new people. I'm not good at group settings. I'm just not good at socializing. And if I make it seem like it, great, but inside I'm dying and I'm really uncomfortable. It's a lot like networking. I don't know if some of you guys have had experience networking, but it is exhausting. You have to tell your whole life story, and you tell the same stories over and over, and it's just a lot to figure out what you have in common with a stranger. And I would not recommend it. Knowing what I know now, I definitely will spread it out a lot more. And I'm going to definitely be way more pickier with the people that I meet, just because I'm really lucky because all the dates that I went on went really well. As in, I had a really good time. Like, I got along with the people that I met and I made it work. I don't think I got what I'm supposed to get out of it. Like, I feel like I just made friends and not really like found anybody. I actually straight up friend zoned 2 of these people, just for context. And one of them, we just kind of stopped texting. And then the other one's like, I don't really know what's happening with that one. Okay, so just some context. The first date, 25 years old. He's in sales. He's black and he's 5'9". This is like some key like details, just in case you guys are wondering. And then the second one, he's 22. He's in tech research and he's Latino, 5'9". The third date I went on, he's 24. He's in tech as well, Latino, 5'10". And then the last date, 23, consultant. He's white and he's 5'10". Okay. I'm going to dive into 2 of the dates. I don't know if I'll like do another episode of the other ones, but they're pretty long stories. So 2 is good. But my first date, I wasn't nervous for really any of the dates just because I was kind of just tired. I showed up to the bar and he had chosen this bar. And it was called Orient Express. And I was like, bro, are you freaking racist or something? Because I thought it was like Orient, like Oriental, like Asian. But anyways, I get there and I was trying to be late on purpose because it's kind of cooler if you're a little bit late, right? And so I was like 5 minutes late, which is, I feel like, respectable. But he was way more late. He was actually 15 minutes more late than I was. That already sets him up to be a little bit cooler than I am. And that's a little annoying. It's also kind of rude that he was 15 minutes late. He said that his train, got messed up because he was coming from Williamsburg. And we get inside and I already immediately know that this is his bar and his go-to place because he didn't need anyone to walk him to the table. He just walked himself to the table and there was already a little plaque thing that said reserved. And then when I sat down, the drinks just came. It was a pretty fancy-ish bar, and the first 10 minutes of every single date was pretty awkward because it's you're trying to figure out what's that common thing that you have so you can get on, one type of conversation. And we had to get over that awkward 10 minutes, and then we finally realized that we both like video editing, and that was where the conversation really started flowing. And we talked about random things like his experience on Hinge, how we have divorced parents, traveling, his craziest Hinge story, a bunch of random things. And it just went really well. And he was like, wow, we have a lot of things in common. I'm realizing I should have said this earlier, but this is the 25-year-old sales black 5'9" dude. Yeah. And he was like, we have a lot of things in common. And it's just weird. Are you trying to be fake or something? And I was like, no, I don't have time for that. I also asked him, because I was genuinely just curious, what do you do when you have a really bad date? Do you just leave? Or do you say something? Or do you just sit through the entire thing? And he said he just leaves. He says within the first 15 minutes, he'll know whether or not it's going to go well. And then he'll just tell the girl straight up, this is really awkward and I'm not really having a good time and I'm pretty sure you're not either. So I'm going to go. I feel that's actually pretty smart. And he was like, yeah, I have things to do. I don't want to waste my time. And honestly, I 100% agree. So that was kind of cool. Obviously, the date went so well that he didn't do that to me. That would have been kind of awkward. And I actually was planning to leave at 8:30. So I told him I had plans afterward, which is true. But I didn't really have to be back by 8:30. And I actually ended up pushing back the date because it was really fun. Okay, I also drank a lot. Well, I mean a lot for myself. I drank 2-ish drinks and they were pretty strong. And I was borderline drunk. So when we left, when I get drunk, I don't really think and I kind of just do things, and sometimes I do things that I literally would never do in real life. I mean, not in real life, but sober. And I was just so touchy with him, and same with him to me. And like, I come outside and he like immediately puts his arm around me, and I'm like, okay. And he's like, is it okay if I put my arm around you? And I was like, yeah, it's fine. If I didn't want you to do it, I would have said something. And yeah, we were just touchy, but like, honestly, I wasn't feeling anything. That's like the thing with a lot of these dates, and just in general when I date, even though it's a really good time and like it flows well and like they're having a good time, I still don't feel butterflies like 95% of the time, which is pretty disappointing, because it's like, you would think if I'm having a good time I would feel butterflies, but I'm very picky. I have very specific type of people that I'm attracted to, so I'll know pretty fast. But yeah, I just kind of played along, but I really didn't feel any attraction, even though we were really touchy. And I like, usually physical touch is kind of like the trigger that like gets me to like somebody. If I were looking at us from a third person perspective, I would have thought we were a couple. Like, that's how touchy we were. And then we got to the train station, and he was like, oh, I was asking him what train he was taking, and he was taking a different one than I was, and he still offered to walk me to that station. And I was like, no, it's fine, like I can get there myself. And then he was like, can I just be a gentleman? And I was like, yeah, but like, it's fine, I really don't mind. And when we were waiting for the train to come, he was like, I'm a black man, like whenever I'm around you, like no one's gonna mess with you. And I was like, okay, like it's fine, like I can take care of myself. And he was like, yeah, but I'm just saying, like no one's gonna mess with you when I'm like around you. And I was like, okay. I was like, that's fine. And then I ended up leaving, obviously, because the train came. So yeah, that was that date. And I'll talk about the last date I went on. And okay, for my last date, 23, consultant, white, 5'10". This was a really fancy restaurant. He picked it out just like the first guy picked out the place. It was a lot because I was already tired from the 3 dates I had, and it was on a weekday, and it was a fancy place, and I'm just not about that. So we get there, and I'm dressed for the occasion, and he's like dressed in like a very like skater boy, like California outfit, which is I like. And I was like, you look cute, in my head. And when I approached him, he was like, you look great. Okay, and let me just say something. So like, that's really sweet of him to like compliment me, but it's just very formal to say great, to say you look great. It sounds very like mature. I knew kind of in that second, I was like, oh no. I was like, this is not gonna go the way that I thought it was. Even though like it was weird because he was dressed a certain way and he wasn't dressed for the type of restaurant it was. But he was like, yeah, I like didn't realize how fancy this place was. And I was like, oh, I like thought you knew of this place, that's why you picked it out. And he was like, no, I just found a random place in your area. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I like was surprised you picked this place. Trying to joke around and be like flirty. I was like, yeah, I was annoyed about it because like I had to dress up, but I wanted to wear like sweats. And I was like trying to get him to loosen up, but he wasn't matching it. And he was kind of like, yeah, I like was in my pajamas all day. And I was like, okay. And then we sat down, and then obviously it was awkward. It was literally the longest 2-person table I've ever seen. Like we couldn't even, if I wanted to, I couldn't even reach his side. Like that's how wide the table was. And like the ambiance, it was just very fancy. Everyone around us was older than us, dressed in like suits, and we were definitely out of place. But anyways, we talked a lot about work. Gives me the vibe that like a person's only personality is their work, which I don't like. But anyways, we talked about it for like so long before we ended up talking about random things. We talked about like skateboarding and about traveling, about food, cooking, things like that. And also before we got to the date, he told me already what we were going to order. He was like, let's get margs and guac at this place. So we got margs and guac, and they were pretty expensive. The margs were $20 each, which was crazy, and the guac was like $25. Yeah, it was the most fancy chips and guac I've ever had. Like the server like came out with the chips and then the guac, and then there's 10 sauces, and he proceeds to name every single sauce, describe the flavor and the ingredients in the sauce and the level of spiciness. So that like felt like 20 minutes because he was going so slow, and it was like this awkward tension because I was just like watching him and I didn't really know like what to look at, and it was like very weird because we still hadn't like kind of crossed over that barrier of the awkwardness. Like it was really fun talking to him, and he's sweet, and he was really cute too, so like I thought that I would be interested, but like I said, I'm pretty picky, unfortunately, I guess, with when it comes to like actually feeling something. So like naturally I didn't end up having any real like chemistry or butterflies or anything like that with him, and I think we both knew that was the case. So once the date was over, we kind of like walked to wherever we needed to go, and then I said bye to him, and then I knew like it wasn't going to lead to anything, and I was hoping that he would get the same vibe. I was hoping that he would get the same idea and be like, okay, like she's fun to hang out with, but like we're not going to be more than friends. And thank God, because like we stopped texting after that, and like didn't want to like send another friend zone text. Anyways, that is the TLDR, the T for my Hinge dates. I might do another part for what else happens. I don't really know what I'm about to do with the app yet. I'm just kind of taking a break right now because that was a lot, and I'd rather do other things and hang out with people that I already know. So yeah, anyways, thanks for listening, and see you guys next week.